Have you ever wondered why you suddenly felt a lot more relaxed in one specific waiting room compared to another?
Right. Or why you just reflexively trust a certain brand of bottled water over another one.
Yeah, exactly. Even though they all literally just contain, well, water.
Right. It's just water.
But the answer is likely completely invisible to your conscious mind, even though it's, staring you right in the face.
We really like to think of ourselves as these entirely rational creatures, don't we?
Oh, 100%.
Like we believe we're making all our choices based on pure logic or price points or, just totally objective preference.
But we aren't?
No, not at all. The visual environment we inhabit it's constantly speaking to us. It's giving us these tiny instructions and subtle suggestions that we follow without even realizing it.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today for you, our favorite listener, the learner. Because today, we've got our hands on this amazing source material.
It's essentially the ultimate insider's guide to graphic design.
Yeah, specifically, we're looking at a deep dive into Chapter 3, Meaning and Emotion, from this really comprehensive manual on color fundamentals.
It's all about how color affects design.
Right, so the mission of this deep dive today is to decode that secret language of color. We're going to explore how a specific hue, acts as a psychological tool, a cultural signifier, and even a biological trigger.
Because once you understand the actual architecture behind these choices, it's wild. You realize color fundamentally changes how we understand the world around us.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through this research, I had this massive realization about how deeply we are manipulated by everyday design choices.
Manipulated is a strong word, but yeah.
Well, I say manipulated affectionately, mostly. But it is fascinating to realize you are being steered,
It's a really profound realization. And I think it's important to establish right away that color isn't just about making things look aesthetically pleasing.
Right, it's not just decoration.
Exactly. We tend to relegate color to the realm of decoration, like picking out throw pillows for a couch or something.
Yeah, matching the drapes.
Right. But when you really analyze the data here, color is this critical intersection of psychology, biology, and communication.
It actually does work.
It actively imparts meaning. It evokes a physical emotion. And for a professional designer, understanding a person's response to color and tone can literally determine whether critical information is understood at all.
Or whether someone buys something.
Exactly. Whether a consumer actually pulls their wallet out or whether a client's services are trusted.
So it is a highly functional tool.
Highly functional.
Let's look at the biological and behavioral triggers first, because this is where the theory hits reality in a very, very measurable way.
This is the science side of it.
Right. We're talking about how color impacts the conscious and subconscious mind, fundamentally altering our behavior and our physical states. And there's this University of Rochester study in the text that absolutely blew my mind.
Oh, the twin study.
Yeah.
That one is incredible.
It's wild. So scientists set up this experiment where men were asked to evaluate the attractiveness of a woman. And to control for baseline physical differences, they used identical twins.
Which is such a smart control variable.
Exactly, the only variable at all. One twin was wearing the color red, and the other twin was dressed in pastels.
And the results of that study are just incredibly telling.
What did they find?
Well, the men were 10 to 20% more attracted to the woman wearing red.
Just because of the shirt color.
Just the color. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's truly fascinating is that this preference didn't just stop at, a self-reported rating of physical attractiveness.
Right, it wasn't just, she's prettier.
No, it crossed over into actual resource allocation. The subjects reported that they would be significantly more likely to spend more money on a date with the woman in the red dress.
That is insane. So a simple wavelength of light hitting their retina completely altered their financial decision-making process.
It literally did.
I mean, I guess we can theorize about the evolutionary biology of that, right? Red being associated with flushed skin or increased blood flow.
Or vitality, even ripeness in fruit.
Yeah, ripeness. But the fact that it translates directly into, I will spend more of my actual money on this person, is a huge leap.
It is a huge leap. And it really demonstrates that the biological response bypasses our logical filtering systems entirely.
It's subconscious.
Completely. And it's not just about attraction or mating instincts either.
Yeah.
Consider this highly practical, real-world application of biological triggering in Wales.
Oh, the police station thing.
Yes. A police department there painted a specific royal blue line on the walls of their holding cells.
Just a blue line.
Just a royal blue line.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it to make the cells look nice or nautical. They did because neurological evidence suggests that the color blue may actually encourage truthfulness and calm down an erratic nervous system.
Okay, I need to understand the mechanism behind that. Because if I'm sitting in a police holding cell, presumably I'm highly anxious, maybe under the influence, definitely stressed out, how does a royal blue stripe on a concrete wall physically change my capacity for truthfulness?
It comes down to how different wavelengths of light physically interact with the eye and the brain.
Okay.
So blue light has a shorter wavelength. When you process cool colors like royal blue, it doesn't stimulate the sympathetic nervous system the way warm, long wavelength colors do.
Like red or orange.
Right. Red actually triggers a subtle fight or flight response. It elevates your physiological arousal.
It stresses you out.
Essentially, yes. But blue does the exact opposite. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for our rest and digest functions.
Oh, wow. So it's forcing your body to calm down.
Exactly. When you lower that physiological arousal in an inherently chaotic environment like a holding cell, you strip away a layer of defensive anxiety.
That makes sense. If you're less anxious, you're less guarded.
Statistically speaking, a calmer suspect is less combative and way more prone to being cooperative and truthful.
That makes so much sense when you break down the actual nervous system response. And this is backed up by other studies in the text, right? Like the work from Dr. Carlo Rimudo in Sydney.
Yes, his research at the School of Color and Design perfectly illustrates this physical shift.
What did he do?
He conducted research where subjects were asked to perform basic cognitive tasks in two entirely different environments. One was a brightly strategically colored room, and the other was a completely gray, monochromatic room.
And the physical difference in the subjects wasn't just like, I feel better in the colored room. It was a measurable biological drop.
Oh, highly measurable. The subjects in the colored room exhibited significantly lower levels of self-reported anxiety, first of all.
Right.
But beyond that, their actual physiological baselines dropped. We are talking about lower heart rates and lower blood pressure compared to the individuals in the gray room.
Just from sitting in a room with color?
Yes. And because their physiological stress response was mitigated, because their bodies weren't wasting energy dealing with environmental anxiety, they actually demonstrated an enhanced ability to engage in complex problem-solving activities.
They got smarter because the room was colored.
They became more cognitively efficient, yeah. This is the exact reason why modern design offices, or tech startups, and progressive corporate environments use color so prominently in their decor.
Like the Google offices with the crazy primary colors everywhere.
Right. It isn't just to look quirky or fun. It literally improves productivity and neurological efficiency.
Man, so if I'm thinking about this in real terms, it makes color sound like invisible puppet strings.
It kind of is.
You aren't just making a nice aesthetic choice. You are constructing a physical environment that actively alters the human body. Which raises a huge question for me.
What's that?
Does this mean graphic designers are basically amateur behavioral psychologists? Like, are they just pulling these biological strings to make us buy energy bars and confess to crimes?
That is the exact tension that designers grapple with every day. And it brings us to what the industry actually refers to as the prediction problem.
The prediction problem.
Right. So while isolated studies from Rochester and Sydney are undeniable, the science of predictably and universally altering behavior through color is still in its infancy.
It's not a sure thing.
Exactly. Using color as a guaranteed, reliable recipe to sell a specific product or universally control a population's mind that is a long, long way off.
But why is that? I mean, if the royal blue line works in a Welsh prison and blue lowers the heart rate, why can't we just paint everything royal blue and have a perfectly honest, perfectly calm, global society?
Well, because humans do not operate in a sensory vacuum. We are incredibly complex creatures, and there are massive natural variations in people's perception.
Right. Everyone's different.
We constantly try to match our immediate sensory feelings to previously held expectations. Our biological responses are constantly being filtered through this massive web of variables.
But look what kind of variables?
Your age, your gender, your cultural upbringing, your geography, your past traumas, all of it.
So the blue might calm me down, but it might remind someone else of like a hospital where they had a bad experience.
Exactly. So while there is zero doubt that a color can be biologically stimulating or relaxing, ensuring that it uniformly forces every single viewer to interpret a specific client message in the exact same way, The reality of human neurodiversity just isn't that simple.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not a magic wand, it's more like a heavy influence.
A very heavy influence.
But think about this, learner. Wherever you are right now, just pause for a second and look around your current environment.
Good exercise.
Are you sitting in a drab, gray office cubicle right now? Or are you in a brightly colored living room with warm lighting? Take a second and check your own heart rate.
Notice how you feel.
Right. How are you feeling right now? Because according to this research, the ambient colors around you are currently negotiating directly with your nervous system without your permission.
It really is a profound thought exercise. And I think it leads perfectly into the next layer of complexity we need to explore from the text. Well, if biology isn't a perfect universal predictor of how we react to color, what else is intercepting that signal?
Oh, right.
The answer lies in the unique wiring of our own brains and our highly personalized psychological expectations.
Yes, the mind's wiring. Because if we're talking about human neurodiversity, we have to talk about synesthesia.
Absolutely.
Specifically color graphemic synesthesia. When I was reading about this in the source material, it literally felt like reading about a superpower.
Synesthesia is one of the most fascinating neurological conditions in all of human psychology.
It's wild.
It occurs when the stimulation of one sensory pathway leads to a simultaneous involuntary experience in a completely different sensory pathway.
So crossing the wires.
Exactly. And in the specific case of color graphemic synesthesia, individuals perceive letters or numbers as being inherently permanently colored.
Explain the mechanism there. Like, why does a number have a color?
It comes down to physical cross-wiring in the brain. The area of the brain responsible for recognizing numbers and letters is located physically adjacent to the V4 color processing center.
Okay, so they are right next to each other.
Right. And in synesthetes, there is an excess of neural connections between these two regions.
They bleed into each other.
Essentially, yes. So, when the individual looks at a perfectly black and white number 4 printed on a page, the number recognition center fires, but it accidentally triggers the color center as well.
Wow.
So, the number 4 might always appear to them as a vivid, glowing emerald green in their mind's eye. Or the letter A might always be crimson red.
And they can't turn it off.
No, it is completely involuntary, and it is consistent throughout their entire life.
Imagine trying to design a billboard or a logo for someone whose brain does that. I mean, synesthesia is the ultimate proof of variable color association.
It really is.
It proves that an audience might attribute entirely different meanings to hues based on their own internal neurological hardware.
Exactly. The designer's carefully planned, perfectly focused grouped color palette is suddenly competing with the viewer's own involuntary internal light show.
That's got to be frustrating for a designer.
Well, while true synesthesia is rare, it highlights a much broader truth. We all have deeply rooted subjective associations with color.
Even if we don't literally see glowing green numbers.
Right. To understand how deep this goes, we can look at how foundational psychologists viewed the subject. The text mentions Carl Jung, who actively ascribed meaning to particular colors as a tool for understanding unconscious archetypes.
Jung really leaned into the mystical side of it.
He did. He believed that colors were essentially the mother tongue of the subconscious.
So when you look at Jungian archetypes, he was basically trying to decode the soul's color palette, right? Using color to map out psychic disposition.
Yes, and even Sigmund Freud used color to decode the subconscious.
Right, with dreams.
Exactly. He famously analyzed the importance of dreams, and a key component of his psychoanalysis was analyzing the specific colors that appeared within those dreams.
To figure out what was wrong with the patient.
To better understand a patient's waking, conscious anxieties and their hidden desires. Both of these figures recognized that color wasn't just visual data, it was a deeply embedded psychological language that carried immense emotional weight.
But this is where I have to push back a little on the practical side of this.
Okay, go for it.
If Jung is right about deep archetypes, and Freud is right about subconscious dream coding, and people literally have crossed neural pathways like synesthesia,
Right.
what does this all mean for a working designer today? Like, if you are a graphic designer trying to sell a simple cranberry energy bar, how on earth do you design for a mass audience if every single person's brain is a completely different kaleidoscope of subconscious archetypes and involuntary sense memories?
It sounds impossible, doesn't it?
It really does.
Well, this raises a critical question, and it's really the absolute crux of a professional designer's job. What's fascinating here is the statistical approach to design.
Statistical approach, okay.
Designers cannot design for the individual. They just can't. They must identify and anticipate the common associations of an audience.
So you are looking for the overlapping Venn diagram of expectations.
Precisely. The more people have in common, culturally, demographically, geographically, the easier it will be to forecast their reactions.
So you aren't trying to capture the synesthete and the Jungian scholar with the exact same brushstroke.
Exactly. You are looking for the broad, shared cultural touchstones. You have to accept that there will always be outliers.
Sure.
But if a designer can accurately anticipate the associations that a specific targeted demographic will have with a specific color, it becomes entirely possible to create a palette that produces the intended response for the vast majority of that group.
Okay, so it's about playing the statistical odds of human perception. You're searching for the largest common denominator.
That's exactly what you're doing.
And that brings us beautifully to the next massive factor from the text, the cultural kaleidoscope.
Yes, culture is huge here.
We've established that the brain creates internal expectations, but where do those overlapping expectations actually come from?
Largely from society.
Right. The research points overwhelmingly to one thing: geography. Where you happen to be born completely dictates your color perception, largely through linguistic determinism.
Linguistic determinism in the context of color is incredibly powerful. The theory suggests that our variability to perceive, describe, and categorize a color is literally limited or expanded by the vocabulary of our native language.
Which is such a crazy concept to wrap your head around.
It is. For instance, terms for basic colors like red, green, yellow, and blue are part of almost every modern industrialized language. But consider the Quechua.
Right.
They're a Mayan language spoken by indigenous people in Guatemala and Belize.
This part blew my mind completely. So in Quechua, there are only 5 frequently used terms to describe the entire visual spectrum.
Only 5.
You have sac for white, kek for black, kakan for yellow, kak for red, and then you have racks.
Yes, racks. And the vital thing to understand about racks is that it encompasses the entire spectrum of what an English speaker would separate into green and blue.
It's just one word for both.
It is one unified concept.
I want to just pause on that for a second because the implications are staggering.
They really are.
Think of language like a net that you cast out into the world to catch reality. If your language's net doesn't have a specific weave, like a specific word for a certain shade, does that shade just slip through unnoticed?
That's the question.
If you are walking through a jungle and your language doesn't have a linguistic boundary between the blue of the sky and the green of the leaves, do you physically experience that landscape differently than I do?
The linguistic research suggests that you absolutely do.
Wow.
Without those distinct verbal categories, your brain doesn't draw a hard perceptual boundary between those wavelengths. They just exist on a continuous, unbroken spectrum of racks.
That is beautiful, but also terrifying from a design perspective.
Right. And we see this variation even among more widespread modern languages. English and Japanese have significantly fewer words to describe the nuances of orange tones than German and French do.
So a German speaker might see 5 types of orange where I just see orange.
Exactly. And historically, in Japanese, while there are several highly specific native words for red and pink tones, which reflects the cultural importance of cherry blossoms and the rising sun, there was actually no specific native word for violet.
So if you don't have a word for violet, you just group it in with purples or dark blues?
Yes,
How we verbally communicate completely alters our neurological sorting system.
it does. And beyond just the vocabulary we use to categorize color, there are deeply entrenched cultural meanings attached to the colors we can name.
Right, the associations.
This is where that Venn diagram of expectations really takes shape for a designer. Think about the color white. In Western countries, white is heavily associated with weddings, purity, innocence, and sterility.
Right, the classic pristine white wedding dress, or the white walls of a hospital.
But in many Eastern cultures, white is intrinsically associated with mourning, funereal rites, and death. It represents the depletion of life.
Such a massive difference.
You see similar stark contrasts with bridal colors across the globe.
Yeah.
In traditional Chinese culture, brides wear red because red is the ultimate color of good luck, joy, and prosperity.
But if you wore red to a Western wedding, people would think you were crazy.
Exactly. Or look at Thailand, where almost any vibrant color other than black is considered acceptable and joyous for a wedding. What is deemed beautiful, festive, or appropriate is not a universal human truth. It is a localized societal agreement.
So as a designer, the stakes are incredibly high.
Very high.
You could create a stunning, elegant, minimalist white brochure for a new luxury product, and depending on what country you ship it to, you are either promising pure, innocent luxury, or you are literally handing the consumer a death notice.
Precisely. And this is why it's critical to understand that the symbolism ascribed to colors is primarily a product of continual reinforcement.
It's learned behavior.
Exactly. It is not an intrinsic, magical attribute of the hue itself. Red doesn't inherently mean luck anywhere in its physical wavelength, any more than white inherently means purity.
It's just light.
Right. These are agreements built over thousands of years of shared history, art, and storytelling. But for a graphic designer, these societal agreements are the most powerful shortcuts available.
Because everyone already knows the secret code.
If you deeply understand the culture of your target audience, color acts as embedded meaning. It does the heavy psychological lifting before a single word of copy is ever read by the consumer.
Okay, so let's transition from the theory to the trenches.
Let's do it.
We are armed with the biological mechanisms, we understand the synesthetic psychology, and we've researched our cultural linguistics.
Right.
How does a designer actually mix the paint? How are decisions made when a professional is staring at a blank screen trying to build this overlapping Venn diagram?
It's a highly structured process.
This brings us to the actual mechanics of color. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the data completely shatters a myth that I think most people believe.
You're referring to the 80-20 rule of design choice.
Right. The research reveals that 80 to 90% of color choices in professional graphic design are rational, calculated decisions based on audience analysis, project briefs, and cultural targeting.
Only 10 to 20% is inspiration.
Yeah, only 10 to 20% relies on trial, error, or purely artistic inspiration. I think a lot of people have this romanticized myth of the naturally gifted artist who just closes their eyes, channels the muse, and splashes the perfect harmonious colors onto a canvas.
That's the Hollywood version of a designer.
But the reality is that creating successful functional color relationships takes an ungodly amount of practice and rational calculation.
It is a rigorous, almost mathematical discipline.
Yeah.
And a massive part of that discipline is understanding the mechanical realities of human vision.
Like how the eye actually works.
Exactly. How colors physically interact when placed next to each other. You have to start by avoiding legibility failures. When pairing colors, a designer must be acutely aware of combinations that create visual tension or vibration on the retina.
Oh, like when you look at a poster and your eyes actually kind of hurt?
Yes.
Or the text seems to be physically buzzing or glowing on the page? Why does that happen?
That buzzing is a physiological response to highly contrasting, pure wavelengths fighting for dominance.
Fighting in your eye.
Basically, yes. The human eye struggles to focus on certain combinations of wavelengths simultaneously. For example, the least legible combinations are red text on a blue background, orange on blue, and green on orange.
Just hearing those combinations sounds painful.
When you stack these vibrant opposing hues, the rods and cones in your retina are essentially receiving conflicting focal instructions.
They don't know what to look at.
Right. They suffer from rapid retinal fatigue, trying to adjust between the two extremes, which your brain interprets as a vibrating or glowing effect. It's incredibly distracting and makes reading text nearly impossible.
It's a literal glitch in our optical hardware.
Exactly. It's a physical limitation.
Yeah.
And conversely, a combination like yellow text on an orange background fails for the exact opposite reason.
A total lack of contrast.
Right. The wavelengths are too similar, so the two colors bleed into one another, making it impossible for the eye to differentiate the edges of the letter forms.
It's basically visual static.
Yes.
So once you ensure the text isn't vibrating or disappearing into static, the designer has to adjust the thermostat, so to speak. They have to deal with temperature.
Temperature is a vital mechanical tool.
Explain the difference between warm and cool colors.
So warm colors, which are based on red pigments or long light wavelengths, are active. They are dynamic, they advance to the viewer, and they demand attention.
They pop out at you.
Right. Cool colors, which are based on blue, shorter wavelengths, are perceived as calming, dependable, and they physically appear to recede away from the viewer.
They sit in the background.
Exactly. But a skilled designer can actually manipulate this perceived temperature. If you have a bright yellow, which is typically a very warm, active color, you can cool it down by adding a minuscule fraction of blue to the mix.
Just a tiny drop.
Just enough to shift the wavelength. And that changes the entire emotional resonance of the color from, alarming to inviting.
And beyond just temperature, the designer has to manage what I like to call the visual volume.
I like that term.
They use specific categories like tints, tones, and neutrals. Let's break those down, starting with tints or pastels, because the man behind pastels surprised me.
A pastel, technically speaking, is a hue made up of more than 65% white.
65%. That means the actual color is a minority in the mix.
It is. The color is highly diluted. And culturally, as we discussed earlier, these high white pastels are strongly associated with newborns, weddings, and are generally considered feminine, delicate, or childish.
They have a very low visual volume. They whisper rather than shout.
That's a great way to put it. On the other end of the spectrum, you have cold colors, those heavily blue-based, cool tones.
Right.
These are incredibly useful because they naturally recede into the background. They don't demand immediate emotional processing from the viewer.
They are just sort of there.
Exactly. They subtly highlight messages and are universally used in corporate identities to communicate trust, stability, and conservativeness. Think of how many banks, law firms, and insurance companies use navy blue.
Oh, wow. If I think about it, almost all of them. Chase, Citi, Prudential, Allstate, it's just a sea of navy blue.
Exactly. They are using blue to lower your heart rate and signal that your money is safe.
They're triggering that parasympathetic nervous system we talked about earlier.
Precisely. And finally, there is a highly underutilized category, neutrals.
Like browns and grays.
Yes. These are hues with a large percentage of brown or gray mixed in. They are fantastic all-purpose tones because they lack heavy cultural baggage.
Unlike red or black.
Right. A pure, vibrant red carries the baggage of danger or passion. A neutral gray-brown doesn't carry that emotional weight. Neutrals allow a viewer to navigate complex information like a dense website or a really complicated annual report without being distracted or fatigued by loud emotional signifiers.
So it's all about strategic intensity. You are matching the visual volume to the message.
Exactly.
If you are designing a brochure for a high-end silent meditation retreat, you absolutely shouldn't use vivid, highly saturated, vibrating palettes of orange and green.
No, that would be a disaster.
It would trigger the sympathetic nervous system and stress the client out before they even read the price list.
They'd never book a room.
Conversely, if you are creating a promotional graphic for a serious television documentary about childhood depression, you need a very specific, sensitive, likely muted tone. You can't use a vibrant neon pink.
You have to respect the emotional weight of the content with your color choices.
It's a really delicate balancing act of biology, culture, and mechanics.
It is. And to truly understand how this balancing act is performed, it is incredibly helpful to look at real-world case studies from the text.
Yes, I love this section.
We need to move from the abstract theory into the trenches and see how professional design agencies apply these rational rules and cultural shortcuts to solve actual client problems.
Let's walk through these examples because this is where the theory becomes totally tangible. First up is an agency called Ames Bros out of Seattle.
They do fantastic work.
The research highlights a book cover they designed where they utilized a stark red, white, and blue combination. Now, in a Western, specifically American context, that is an immediate, unavoidable metaphor.
You can't unsee it.
Right. You see those three colors together and your brain instantly screams, "American flag!" It bypasses any other interpretation and provides instant political or patriotic context.
It's an ingrained cultural shortcut.
But then, to show their range, Ames Bros designed a logo for an MTV network program. And for this, they used a combination of pink, turquoise, and brown.
That MTV palette is a perfect example of breaking the rules intentionally.
Because it clashes, right?
Yes. Pink, turquoise, and brown is visually jarring. It creates tension. But that specific tension perfectly complements the brand identity of MTV.
It fits the vibe.
It signals irreverence. It tells the viewer, before they even know what the show is about, that the content is going to be rule-breaking, edgy, youthful, and chaotic.
They're using the visual vibration as a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. Ames Bros also provides an incredible example of mood setting with a theater poster they designed for a play called Frankenstein in Love.
Oh, the two versions of the poster. This was such a great demonstration of temperature.
It really was. They created two versions of the exact same design. One heavily utilized bright blood red, and the other relied on a sickly muted army green.
Just swapping the main color.
Right. But when you combine those specific culturally loaded colors with gritty, distressed textures in the illustration of the monster, the colors actively convey a completely different, sinister mood.
How so?
The red version screams violence and passion and heat, while the green version screams decay and sickness and coldness. The color is doing all the acting before the actors even take the stage.
It sets the entire psychological stage. Next, let's look at an agency called 2FRE-esh. They operate in London, Istanbul, and Paris.
Yes.
They had a brilliant example of using guaranteed visual metaphors to solve a communication problem without words. They designed a graphic using a stark combination of red, yellow, and black.
And when you combine those specific colors with a triangular shape and an exclamation point, the viewer instantly, reflexively knows they were looking at a warning sign.
You don't even need text.
You don't.
No.
It taps into a universally understood visual vocabulary of danger.
Yeah.
In nature, certain toxic animals use high-contrast red, yellow, and black to warn predators.
Like a poisonous frog or a snake.
Exactly. And we have culturally co-opted that biological warning system for our road signs and our hazard warnings. 2FRE-esh utilized that deeply ingrained association to command immediate attention.
But they also demonstrated incredible subtlety in a completely different project, right? A digital web form designed for the Hillside Sioux Hotel.
Yes, the hotel form. Web forms are notoriously the most boring, sterile part of the internet.
Oh, I hate them. Filling out your address and credit card info is never a fun visual experience.
Never. But 2FRE-esh recognized that the hotel's brand needed to feel warm and inviting, even during the transactional phase. They didn't want to lose the customer's good mood.
So what did they do?
They added very sparing, tiny hints of warm magenta to the interface, just highlighting certain buttons or subtle lines.
Just a tiny pop of color.
Right. This microscopic injection of a warm, active color complemented the surrounding photography and added just enough visual drama to make an otherwise clean, spare service form feel attractive and emotionally engaging.
And it didn't vibrate or distract the user from actually typing in their credit card?
Exactly. They successfully manipulated the temperature of the transaction.
2FRE-esh also showed how to target demographic expectations with their advertisements for Kotex, right?
Yes. They specifically employed soft pinks and light pastel colors.
Tapping directly into those established cultural expectations of traditional femininity.
Exactly. To connect instantly with their target demographic, using that 65% white tit rule we talked about earlier.
It just instantly signals who the product is for.
Without saying a word.
Yeah.
Another fascinating case study from the text involves Hatch Design in San Francisco, and they tackled what is arguably one of the most difficult challenges in packaging design.
Which is?
Energy bars.
Oh, this is such a great point. Because if you strip away the wrapper, energy bars are visually completely unexciting.
They look terrible.
They basically look like dense brown bricks of birdseed or, compressed dirt. They do not look like energy.
Precisely. The product itself fails to communicate its core value proposition. So the packaging becomes the consumer's very first and most crucial association with the product.
The wrapper has to do all the work.
Hatch Design was tasked with creating the identity for an Energize orange cranberry bar. Because they couldn't rely on the physical product to look kinetic or exciting, they had to manufacture the feeling of energy entirely through design.
So what did their design look like?
They created a highly dynamic, geometric matrix of vibrant reds, bright pinks, and reflective silver on the box.
They basically used warm, advancing colors and sharp angles to physically simulate kinetic energy.
Yes. They forced the color palette to do all the heavy lifting of attraction.
It's pure manufactured enthusiasm.
It really is. And finally, there's an agency called There in Australia. They created an advertisement for a clothing line where they used color incredibly sparingly.
Mostly black and white, right?
Right. The whole design is very muted, mostly grays and blacks. But they added these sharp, isolated violet highlights.
Just a little bit of violet.
That use of violet is a masterclass in visual volume. By keeping the rest of the image neutral and muted, the violet becomes incredibly loud.
Because there's no competition for your eye.
Exactly. But because violet is a complex, culturally sophisticated color, historically associated with royalty and luxury, it completely changes the atmosphere of the ad.
It elevates the whole thing.
It makes the entire composition feel sophisticated, exclusive, and seductive. It draws the eye exactly where the designer wants it to go.
With all these diverse examples, though, it raises a really practical question for me.
Okay.
If you are a designer sitting at your desk and you've mixed your pinks and your violets based on all this theory we just talked about, how do you actually know if you nailed it?
That's the tricky part.
Like, how do you know if your geometric pink matrix is actually perceived as energetic by the consumer.
Right.
Or if your pristine white background is accidentally insulting a foreign market. You can't just trust your gut.
You absolutely cannot trust your gut. Your gut is hopelessly biased by your own geography and neurochemistry.
Right.
That is where the practical business side of design comes in. The only way to know if a color palette works is through rigorous testing.
You have to prove it.
If the client have the financial budget, formal focus groups are the absolute gold standard. You put the design in front of the specific target demographic, not just random people, but the exact people you want to buy the product, and you measure how they react.
And what if you don't have a massive corporate budget for two-way mirrors and formal focus groups?
Then you engage in informal polling. You take your designs down to a local coffee shop, you put them in front of prospective audience members, and you just ask them to describe how the image makes them feel.
Just get real human feedback.
It is vital to gauge whether the combination is actually producing the intended communicative result before it goes to print. You have to prove that the overlapping Venn diagram you hypothesized actually exists in the real world.
You have to get out of your own head and physically see it through someone else's eyes.
Exactly.
I also loved the advice in the text for designers trying to build their own internal database of successful palettes. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time.
No, you shouldn't.
The research highlights the practice of actively documenting color inspiration. It features the work of a designer named Johanna Munoz, who created a highly personalized physical swatch book.
That's a great habit for any designer.
The concept is that designers should constantly look for inspiring, naturally occurring color combinations in their daily lives, like the way the sun hits a rusted building next to a blue dumpster, or the colors on the shell of a specific beetle.
Just noticing the world around you.
Right. You isolate those colors, pull them into a design program, and categorize them in a swatch book. By intentionally training your eye over a year or more, you create a customized encyclopedia of proven color relationships that you can draw upon when real-world projects arise.
It moves color selection from pure guesswork on a blank screen to an educated, documented practice.
It's about building a personal library of visual solutions.
It really is.
Which brings us to the final hurdle in this entire process.
The execution.
Yes. Let's say you've done all the work. You've studied the biological reactions, you've respected the cultural linguistics, you've nailed the exact temperature and contrast of your color combo, and you've tested it successfully with your target audience. Your digital file looks absolutely perfect on your monitor.
Okay, sounds like a job well done.
But what happens when that design leaves the controlled environment of your glowing computer screen and goes out into the wild physical world?
Things can go wrong very quickly.
This is where we must discuss the vital importance of context and the rigid mechanics of brand guidelines.
Context is everything in design.
Before a single drop of ink is printed, rigorous questioning is required during the initial project brief. You have to define the target audience and their context with absolute precision.
Yes. Are the consumers conservative or liberal? Are they young or old? Male or female?
Are they risk takers looking for a disruptive tech product, or do they desperately need to be reassured by a dependable financial institution?
Exactly. A neon green might be perfect for a disruptive energy drink targeting teenagers, but it would be disastrous for a bank targeting retirees.
Yeah.
Your color choices must align perfectly with the psychological context of the user.
But it's not just who is looking at it, right? It's the mechanical reality of where and how they are looking at it.
The medium matters immensely.
A color palette must be robustly engineered to work on a backlit television broadcast, on a digital website via a smartphone screen, in a glossy printed magazine, or physically stamped onto a matte cardboard box.
And those different mediums actually use entirely different laws of physics to create color.
Right. This is where CMYK and RGB come in. Can you explain the mechanical difference there? Because I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to make a color look the exact same on a phone and on a piece of paper.
It is a massive mechanical hurdle for designers. Let's start with RGB.
Okay.
RGB stands for red, green, and blue. This is an additive color model used for screens. So your phone, your TV, your laptop monitor.
It uses actual light.
Yes. It starts with a completely black screen, and it adds red, green, and blue light together to create colors. When you mix them all at 100%, you get pure white light beaming directly into your eyes.
Because it's literally a flashlight pointing at you.
Exactly. It allows for incredibly vibrant neon glowing colors because the source is literal illumination.
Okay, so RGB is light. What is CMYK?
CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. which is the printing term for black.
Cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Got it.
This is a subtractive color model used for physical printing. It involves physical ink placed on physical paper.
So no light is being emitted.
Right. The paper starts white, and the ink subtracts or absorbs certain wavelengths of the ambient light in the room, reflecting the rest back to your eye. When you mix all the inks together, you don't get white light, you get a muddy, dark black.
Ah, so one is emitting light and one is absorbing light. They are literally opposites.
Exactly. And because ink physically cannot reflect light as intensely as a screen can emit it, the range of colors, what we call the gamut, is much, much smaller in CMYK.
So you literally can't print certain colors.
That bright, glowing neon green you design on your RGB monitor, it will physically turn into a dull, muddy forest green when you print it in CMYK ink on a piece of cardboard.
Oh man, that's gotta be heartbreaking for a designer.
It is. A designer has to mathematically account for this transition beforehand. The logo has to look good in vibrant RGB, duller CMYK, and it also has to remain legible and impactful if it's printed in cheap, high-contrast black and white on a thermal receipt printer.
This is why professional designers create those massive, comprehensive brand guidelines.
It's exactly why.
The research uses the example of an identity system created for a company called Stylecraft. Designers don't just email a logo file to a client and say, good luck, hope it prints okay.
No, they create dense, multi-page manuals that act as an ironclad insurance policy for the brand's visual identity.
They are essentially creating a legal document to protect the psychological equity of the color.
That's exactly what it is.
I was looking at the pages from the Stylecraft manual, and it is incredibly strict. It's like world building. But you are establishing the strict laws of physics for this corporate universe.
It has to be strict because a brand's color is a highly valuable, recognizable asset. Think about Tiffany Blue or Coca-Cola Red. These guidelines often use the Pantone matching system, or PMS.
Explain PMS, because that's the secret weapon for consistency, right?
Yes, the Pantone matching system is a standardized universal system of custom mixed inks. Every single color in the Pantone library is assigned a specific, unique number.
So there's no guessing.
Exactly. So instead of saying, make the logo sky blue, a designer specifies, print this in Pantone 298. This mathematical standardization guarantees that the exact, perfect shade of blue the client approved in an office in New York will be the exact same shade of blue printed by a packaging vendor halfway across the world in Shenzhen 3 years from now.
It removes all subjectivity from the printing process. It's not kind of blue, it is Pantone 298.
Exactly. The brand guidelines dictate the PMS colors, the specific CMYK ink percentages for general print, and the exact RGB hex codes for digital screens.
They leave nothing to chance.
Nothing. They outline minimum clear space allowances, literally drawing invisible boxes around the logo so it is never crowded by other text or images that might cause visual vibration.
They even include pages explicitly showing incorrect logo use, right?
Oh yes, the do not do this pages are crucial. They will literally show the client a picture of the logo stretched out or recolored in neon pink or placed over a busy, messy photograph with a giant red X over it, explicitly telling them how not to ruin the design.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really proves that color isn't just art in this context. It's a heavily guarded corporate asset.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. It is a financial asset.
Yeah.
When designers use this level of mechanical data, cultural research, and biological reality to back up their color choices during client presentations, it entirely elevates the conversation.
It stops being a debate about personal taste.
Exactly. It moves color from a subjective, easily dismissed argument of, I like this blue, I think it's pretty, to an objective, undeniable reality.
This blue makes you money.
Right. This specific wavelength of blue mathematically avoids retinal vibration, linguistically translates to trust in our target demographic, lowers the heart rate of the viewer, and scientifically achieves your business goals.
It ensures the brand's intended meaning is not diluted over time by inconsistent amateur application.
It protects the investment.
Wow. We have really covered some massive ground today.
We really have. From biology to print mechanics.
Yeah, we started by looking at the involuntary biological reactions to blue prison cells in whales and the evolutionary attractive power of a red dress.
The twin study, right?
We navigated the linguistic nets of the Kekchi language, where green and blue exist as a single concept of racks, and we mapped the deep cultural geography of white wedding dresses versus white funereal shrouds.
And we followed that thread all the way to the rigid, mathematically precise laws of additive and subtractive light, the Pantone matching system, and strict corporate brand guidelines.
It is a massive, invisible landscape of manipulation and communication that we navigate every single day of our lives.
It's constantly happening all around us.
So, learner, the next time you're at the grocery store and you reflexively reach for a specific product on the shelf, I want you to stop. Look at the box, look at the precise combination of hues, and ask yourself, why these colors? What is the visual volume here? What are they trying to make my nervous system feel?
Because I guarantee you, a team of professionals spent an ungodly amount of hours ensuring you felt exactly that way.
It is a truly fascinating lens through which to view the built environment.
It changes how you see the world. And I will leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over.
Ooh, let's hear it.
We established today that color symbolism is largely a product of continual, localized cultural reinforcement. For thousands of years, our geographic isolation allowed for incredibly diverse, distinct color languages to develop.
Like the Kekjuraks or the Chinese association with red.
Exactly. But today, we live in a hyper-connected, instantaneously shared digital age. Global audiences in Tokyo, London, San Francisco, and rural villages are all staring at the exact same apps, the exact same social media interfaces, and the exact same glowing blue digital buttons every single day.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So what new universal color meanings are we subconsciously inventing together right now? Are we currently overwriting thousands of years of rich, localized cultural geography with a single, unified, global digital color palette?
Wow.
And if we are, what does that mean for the future of human emotion and cultural diversity?
Oh, that is a brilliant, slightly terrifying question to end on. A unified global palette. I'm going to be thinking about that all week.
It's a lot to process.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep your eyes open.